Hi everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. So we are now on the discussion, the continuation discussion for major learning theories. And right now we are done with Ivan Pavlov and the other proponent, which is we are done with hold on, this one, Pavlov. um, so let's proceed with other proponent for behaviorism, which is the Edward Lee Thorndike. So he proposed the connectionism, which is the law of effect. And learning, for him, learning is the result of associations formed between stimuli and responses. Behaviors followed by satisfying consequences are strengthened. What does it mean? By the way, just a brief background. Thorndike is an American psychologist and early behaviorist known for his work on how learning happens through connections between stimuli and responses, called connectionism. So, the key idea for Thorndike theory, the connectionism. So, learning is the result of forming associations, which is connections between situations and action. So, the stronger the connection, the faster and more likely behavior will be repeated. So, what does it mean? Edward Thorndike believed that learning occurs through connections formed between stimuli and responses. His theory, called connectionism, is based on the idea that behavior are strengthened or weakened by their consequences, closely related to what would later become operant conditioning. He emphasized trial and error learning, where a learner makes several attempts to solve a problem and eventually discovers the correct solution. The key law of learning, Thorndike emphasize the law of effect, law of exercise, which is use and disuse, and law of readiness. So, meaning for the law of effect, it is the responses followed by satisfaction are more likely to be repeated. Those followed by discomfort are less likely to be repeated. And then the law of exercise, which is the use and disuse. Connections are strengthened with practice and weakened when not used. So in order for you to remember such things, or like for example what we're doing right now, we'll be reviewing about or we'll be preparing about the board exam. So you have to have the law of exercise. You need to repeat or what they call this one, exercise your learnings for you to use it when you need upon making upon what they call this one, entering the or answering the board exam. And right now we have law of readiness, which is learning is more effective when a person is ready and prepared to learn. So again, you have the law of effect, which is the responses followed by satisfaction. And then second, you have the law of exercise, that you have to exercise such things in order for you to remember, or in order for the learnings to be, what they call this one, exported to your long-term memory. And the law of readiness, if you have the law of exercise, law of effect, so that's the time that you are ready. So when you are ready, there's an effectivity, or all of the information you've gathered, you can use it because it was already prepared into your mind. And the law of effect. So Thorndike's most famous principle, stating that behaviors followed by pleasant outcomes are more likely to be repeated. Behaviors followed by unpleasant outcomes are less likely to be repeated. So what does it mean? So for Thorndike puzzle box experiment, which is it was made on 1898, Thorndike placed a hungry cat inside a puzzle box with food outside. The cat tried various actions to escape. After many trials, the cat learned which actions led to a quick escape, showing how behaviors connected with positive outcomes are learned through trial and error. For this, it was connected to the like you have to experience such things in order for you to know which is which. Next, hold on. Just give me a minute. What's that? Oh my god. Alright, let's proceed. So, the puzzle box with a cat, it was Thorndike again, placed a hungry cat inside a box with a latch, and then the cat accidentally stepped on the lever and got out to reach food. Over time, the cat learned to press the lever faster because it's associated with the action and with a positive result, which is getting the food. Simple example, a student keeps trying different ways to solve a math problem until finding the correct solution. So this imposes learning by trial and error. And also, um, like other example is children or we people loves to cook. However, we don't know the process. So we watch, we try it ourselves like many times. So after multiple times or after a while, you get the right recipe, you get the right process. So it shows learning by trial and error. So in short, Thorndike proposed the connectionism. He imposed that learning happens through trial and error, and Thorndike was famous for the puzzle box experiment, and he introduced the law of effect. So why it matters? It matters Thorndike's work because it paved the way for behaviorist theories like Skinner's operant conditioning and helped explain how trial and error learning works in real life. So in short, we learn by trying things out, keeping what works and avoiding what doesn't. So sometimes we cannot be able to learn something if um, we did not repeat it, something like that. So we have trial and error. Next, we have John Piaget. John Piaget again is famous for his theory cognitive constructivism. For him, learners actively construct knowledge by organizing and adapting experiences, which means learning happens through assimilation and accommodation. And by the way, Jean Piaget is a Swiss psychologist known for his theory about how children actively construct knowledge as they grow. And he believed that learning isn't something given to a child. Children build their own understanding through experiences. So let us dig deeper. For John Piaget, the key idea for John Piaget is the cognitive constructivism, which means cognitive constructivism is the idea that learners actively create knowledge based on their experiences and how they interpreted those experiences. So, in short, children learn by doing, exploring, and discovering, not just by being told. So children learn better if they're able to experience things. And John Piaget is again famous for his theory that children actively construct knowledge through interacting with their environment. Piaget emphasized that cognitive development happens in distinct stages, with each stage representing different abilities and ways of thinking. So here's the key concept for John Piaget. Um, he opposed the schemas, which is the mental frameworks or concepts that help organize knowledge, and also assimilation, which is integrating new experiences into existing schemas. He also imposed the accommodation, which is modifying schemas when new information doesn't fit. No worries, we'll be discussing later one by one. And next, we have equilibration, which is the process of balancing assimilations and accommodations to create a stable understanding. Schemas, this is the mental framework or concept we use to organize and interpret information. So like for example, you have a schema for dog which is view dogs like a four-legged animals. It has a furry, the dog will gonna bark. So your previous knowledge about dog is it has a four legs, a furry, and able to bark. That is called schema, your previous knowledge. Next, we have assimilation. Assimilation means adding new information into an existing schema without changing it. For example, you see a collie dog for the first time and call it a dog because it fits your existing dog schema. For this one, for your previous like for example in the schema, you have the knowledge that dog is a four-legged animal, says furry and bark. So during an assimilation, you see the collie for like a dog for the first time and call it a dog because it fits your previous understanding about dog, your previous knowledge about dog. And then here it comes the accommodation. So accommodation, it is changing your schema because you new information doesn't fit. So like for example, again, you see a cat for the first time, and at first you call it a dog. It is because the cat has it is a four-legged animals, a furry, and then after a while, during here in the accommodation, you learn that cats are different. So you modify your schema to separate dog and cat. So during accommodation, you have the capacity to distinguish between a cat and a dog. So that's what it's called accommodation. Next, we have equilibration. So equilibrations from the word balance or equal. So this is balancing assimilations and accommodations to create stable understanding. For example, you understand that dogs and cats are different animals, but both are pets. Your mind is balanced with no confusion. So during equilibrations, you have to know, you already know the difference between animals and, the dog and the cats, they are still animal. However, they are both. So you already know the difference. You already know how to balance that both of them, the dogs and the cat are pet. Sorry. Next, we have stages of cognitive development. For sensory, don't you worry because we will be discussing this one by one later. So, sensory motor stage, age range 0 to 2 years old. And the characteristic here is learning through senses and actions developed of object permanence. We have also pre-operational age range 2 to 7 years old, which is the characteristic of the child is a symbolic thinking, egocentrism, and imagination. And now, the concrete operational, age 7 to 11 years old. This time, the characteristic of a child is they have the logical thinking about concrete events, and they understand the conversation. They have understanding about the conversation. Next, we have formal operational stage, age 11 years old and above. For this, the characteristic of the child was abstract and hypothetical thinking. Okay, so sensory motor stage, which is 0 to 2 years old, this stage they learn through senses and actions, and it was able to develop the object permanence. Next, we have pre-operational 2 to 7 years old, symbolic thinkings, which is they learn through words and image. Yes, image. And also, they are still egocentric, which sees the world only from their view. So they don't understand from the other's perspective yet. Next, we have concrete operational, which is ages 7 to 11 years old. During this stage, the child think logically about concrete things, and they able to understand conversations like quantity stays the same despite appearance. And we have the formal operational stage, which is age 12 and above. And from this stage, the child can think abstractly, hypothetically, and reason logically. Let us discuss this one by one. Sensory motor stage, learning happens through senses and actions like touching, looking, mouthing, something like that. And also, during this stage, it will develop object permanence, and child able to understand that things still exist even if you can't see them. Example, a baby plays a peekaboo and learns that you still exist even when hidden. They know that even you're going to hide your face, they know that you still exist. Next, we have a pre-operational stage. Again, it ages 2 to 7 years old. From this stage, the child begins a symbolic thinking using words and images to represent objects. However, the child here is still egocentric, which can only see the world from their own point of view. For example, a child talks to a doll as if it is alive and assumes everyone else knows what they know. So, the child here during this stage, they are still egocentric, which is they are following what they want to do, or they assumes that everyone's also know what they know. And next, we have the number three, the concrete operational stage, which is 7 to 11 years old. And the child here can able to think logically about concrete things like real object and events. And the child can able to understand conversations, knowing quantity stays the same even if the shape changes. For example, a child knows that water in a tall thin glass is the same amount as in the short wide glass. And we have formal operational stage, ages 12 years old and beyond. The child here can able to think abstractly, hypothetically, and logically, and they can able to imagine things and plan ahead. For example, a teenager can debate moral issues and imagine different outcomes of a decision. So, why it matters to study John Piaget's work? Because the Piaget's theories remind us that learning is an active and step-by-step process shaped by experience, and that teaching should match the learner's developmental stage. Next, we have Jerome Bruner. He emphasizes the discovery learning or constructivism. So, yesterday we discussed the best behaviorism, cognitivism, social learning theory, we discussed already the three, and now this is just the continuation, and we are on the constructivism. So Bronner, according to him, students learn best by discovering concepts by themselves through inquiry and problem solving with the teacher as a facilitator. So the students gonna learn better if they're going to experience it by themselves or discover it by themselves with the help of the teacher. Jerome Bronner is an American psychologist who emphasized learning as an active process where learners construct new ideas based on what they already know. The key ideas here is that learning by discovery. Brunner believed learners understand best when they discover knowledge by themselves rather than just receiving information. Also, Brunner imposed the spiral curriculum, which is the concepts should be revisited repeatedly over time, each time at a deeper and more complex level. Also, he emphasizes modes of representation, which is Bronner described three ways people represent knowledge as they grow, which is an active, iconic, and symbolic. So inactive, which is the action based, learning through doing. And then the iconic, it is the image based from the word. This is image based. Learning through pictures and images. Next, we have symbolic. Is a language base. It is learning through symbols and language. The iconic child gonna learn from pictures and images. While in the symbolic, the child gonna learn through symbols and language. And Jerome Bronner believed that learning is an active process where learners construct new ideas based on their current and past knowledge. He emphasized the importance of discovery learning, where students learn best by exploring and discovering informations by themselves. Also, Bronner introduced the idea that any subject can be taught effectively in some intellectually honest form to any child at any stage of development, provided it's presented appropriately. So here, the teachers become a facilitator, not just a dispenser of knowledge. Next, the key concept for Bronner, he imposed the discovery learning, spiral curriculum, and also the inactive, iconic, and symbolic representation. Discovery learnings again is students learn by exploring problem solving and finding out things for themselves. And also spiral curriculum, for him, it needs to be revisited, the key ideas repeatedly over time and increasing its complexity. And also the modes of representing knowledge, he proposed or emphasized the inactive, iconic, and symbolic representations. So learning by discovery. Learners discover informations for themselves through exploration and problem solving. For example, instead of telling students the formula for area, a teacher lets them measure and compare different shapes to figure it out on their own. So the teacher here becomes the facilitator and allows students to experience or to discover it by themselves in order for the learnings to be effective. Next, we have the spiral curriculum. It is an important topics are revisited over time with increasing depth and complexity. For example, a child first learns simple addition in grade 1, then multi-digit addition in grade 2, and later on applies addition in solving word problem in grade 3. So, spiral curriculum highlights the connectionism, the connections from grade 1 to grade 2 up until grade 3, up until even today, up until high school, there's a connection, something like that. So, it's always, he highlights the important to revisit the topics over time, and then it increased the idea and the complexity. And again, we have modes of representation. An active age 0 to 1 year old, meaning learning through actions, example, handling objects. Next, we have iconic, which is age 1 to 6 years old, and meaning learning through images or visuals. Symbolic, age 7 years and up, meaning learning through symbols like language, numbers, and the concepts. So, we discussed the inactive or action based. So here, learning through physical actions and movement. For example, a baby shakes a rattle to understand cause and effect. When I shake this, it makes a sound. Next, we have iconic or the image based. So the child here, they learn through pictures, images, or diagrams. For example, a child learns to recognize different animals by looking at their and pictures in a storybook. So here, you can able to see some of the parents, and even in schools, child here age from 1 to 6 years old, they show pictures in the books, and in a storybook, in order for the learnings to be like effective as well, through the pictures or the images. And next we have symbolic or the language based. Here, learning through words, symbols, and abstract concepts. For example, a student uses written numbers and math operations to solve a problem. 5 plus 3 equals math. So here, the child learns through the words, the symbols, and abstract concepts. Brunner believed that learners move through these stages as they grow, from doing to seeing to understanding, through language and symbols. A simple example from inactive, iconic to symbolic. So a teacher introduces math through hands-on activities. That is inactive. Then he uses pictures and charts, and that is the iconic. And finally, moves on to equations and formulas, and that is called symbolic. So in short, Brunner emphasizes that learning is an active and constructive. He also advocates discovery learning and spiral curriculum. He also introduced three modes of cognitive representation, which is inactive, iconic, and the symbolic. So he emphasizes the iconic, inactive, iconic, and symbolic. Now let's move forward to Levi-Vygotsky. Levi-Vygotsky highlights the sociocultural theory, or ZPD, which is a zone of proximal development. For him, learning happens through social interaction and guidance from more knowledgeable others within the learner's zone of proximal development, or ZPD task, achievable with help. What does it mean? By the way, Vygotsky he's a Russian psychologist who believed that social interaction and culture are key to a child's learning and development. He um Vygotsky believed that social interaction and culture play a fundamental role in cognitive development. He emphasized that children learn through guided participations and interactions with more knowledgeable others, or um, called MKOs, like parents, teachers, or peers. Unlike Piaget, who focused on individual discovery, Vygotsky, on the other hand, highlighted the importance of collaborative learning and communications in acquiring knowledge. So Vygotsky emphasized that children learns best with the assistance or with the help of the more knowledgeable others. The key ideas here is the sociocultural theory, which is learning is a social process. We learn best through interaction with others, like parents, teachers, peers, or who guide and support us. For example, a child learns how to bake by watching and helping their grandmother in the kitchen. So child here learns best by watching, and then with the help of the more knowledgeable other or the grandmother in the kitchen, then the child learns how to bake. So the key concept for Vygotsky is the zone of proximal development or ZPD, which is meaning the gap between the learner can do alone and what they can achieve with the guidance of more knowledgeable others. Next, we have more knowledgeable other MKO. This is the person who has better understanding or higher skill level than the learning in a particular task. So more knowledgeable others is the person who knows better than the child. And then also, Vygotsky emphasized the scaffolding, meaning temporary support provided by a more knowledgeable other to help a learner accomplish a task with their ZPD. So scaffolding means that this is the support that given by the more knowledgeable others. Zone of proximal development or ZPD. So this is the gap between what a learner can do alone and what they can do with the help from someone more skilled. For example, a child can tie their shoes alone, but with the parents' guidance, they can. So here emphasizes this first, the child can't able to they did not know how to tie their shoelace. And then with the help of the parents, the child can able to learn with parents guidance. So as they practice, the skill moves into what they can do independently. Next, we have MKO. This is anyone who has more knowledge, skills, or understanding about the task, concepts, or process than the learner. So they are the one who guides and support the learner within their zone of proximal development. So who can be an MKO or the more knowledgeable other? It's either a parents, teachers, older siblings, peers, and even friends. Even a video tutorial or a book can able to become an MKO or more knowledgeable other. So as long as they offer knowledge, the learner doesn't yet. So even the video tutorial or book, even the video streaming, the live streaming that we do right now, so it can also add as MKO. Next example. A 5-year-old learning how to ride a bike with training wheels is guided by their older brother. The brother is the MKO or more knowledgeable other, which is the brother help the 5-year-old balance, explaining how to pedal and offering some tips. And little by little, the child becomes confident enough to ride it alone. And here it comes the scaffolding. So scaffolding is a temporary support provided by a teacher or peer to help a learner within their ZPD or zone of proximal development, which is gradually reducing assistance as the learner improves. For example, a teacher helps the students with reading difficult words, then slowly steps back as the child gains confidence and reads independently. So scaffolding is a temporary support. Next example. A student struggles to solve a puzzle alone, which they can't do it yet, but can finish it with the teacher's guidance or within the ZPD. And then later, the students can solve it independently after enough support and practice. That's called scaffolding. So in short, Vygotsky imposes the learning is socially constructed. So for him, we learn better with the support of the MKO. He also emphasized the interaction and cultural tools in learning. He introduced the ZPD, the Zone of Proximal Development, MKO, which is more knowledgeable others, and this, he also introduced the scaffolding, which is the temporary support. We have a quick mnemonic for learning theories, which is I believe all educators just join learning. I for Ivan Pavlov, which is for behaviorist, B for B.F. Skinner, A for Albert Bandura, E for Edward Thorndike, J for John Piaget, and then another J for Jerome Bruner, and then L for Lev Vygotsky. So here's the simple summary of the learning theories. So Ivan Pavlov, learning by association, which is stimulus and response. Skinner, learning by rewards and punishment. Bandura, learning by observing and modeling others. Thorndike, learning by trial and error. Consequences matter. Piaget, learning by actively building mental structures. And Bronner, learning by discovering ideas through experience. And lastly, we have Vygotsky, which is learning with social help and guided interaction. Okay, that would be it. So I will be continuing for curriculum development. But before that, I need to take my breakfast. I'm starving, so I'm so sorry, guys. But let us proceed or continue later. Okay. Thank you for watching. And if you learned something, you can do subscribe something like that. I see you later.